Welcome to the Sea Files on a wonderful, beautiful morning here in North Carolina. Yeah, my morning job, and gonna be doing my daily Bible reading. Some days I gotta squeeze it in the best I can. Things get busy. You know, my definition of retirement is that you're really still working, you're just not getting paid for it. Rightly so. Family really does depend upon retired members of the family to help out with a lot of things, and I think that's the way things should be. And so I do a lot of that. But anyway, family who are in Christ we really do need to help one another. Anyway, a couple of Supreme Court decisions that have really stirred the pot, I guess. The Chevron decision and also the immunity decision for Trump. People are really either elated or they are totally despondent over those decisions. It seems like it's one degree or the other. And of course, there's the people in the middle who are oblivious to anything that's going on because they spend all their time watching the mainstream media, or they don't watch any news at all, or they just don't pay attention because they just don't, it's not a part of their day, right? It's not a part of their life, and that's fine. Live your life, right? Live your life. And sometimes I think it's better to be oblivious and just go live your life. I think you're probably more productive that way than you are buying into all of the propaganda that's pushed by the Tavistock media. Anyway, the immunity case is not what they're telling you, folks. It's not that the president can now become a benevolent dictator and go out and do whatever the president wants to do. That's not what the decision was, okay? You got to listen to the people that have actually read the brief from the court, who actually understand the legal language, okay? I haven't read the brief yet. I do understand the legal language because I was trained in law, not as a lawyer, but as a law enforcement officer. And but from what I've gotten from the legal experts who actually have delved into it, there's the question of official duties versus non-official duties of the president. If it's considered to be an official duty, then it has immunity. If it's a non-official duty, if it's not official duty as a president, that would normally be considered something that a president would have to engage in the executive branch, as set forth in the Constitution. Then it's not covered under the immunity decision. So now they've got to go back to the lower courts and they have to decide, okay, is this official duties or is this not official duties? Now, they can't just arbitrarily say, well, it's official duties, but we don't like that, so we're just going to say it's unofficial duties and still try them anyway. The Supreme Court sent a warning to the lower court saying, get it right, and we don't want to see this back before us again. And if we do, there's going to be a heavy rebuke to the lower courts. In other words, stop playing the political nonsense, stop playing the political game, and follow the letter of the law. Follow the constitutional law that we just decided on in the Supreme Court. So the lower courts can't be playing shenanigans if they don't want the, um, shall we say, rebuke of the higher court. Um, I think it's killed a lot of these cases against Trump. I think the only case against Trump that is still standing after this is the New York case. And I think that one's eventually going to be killed as well. I don't think that one's going to stand very long either. I mean, if the New York case stood, then there's a lot of business people operating businesses in New York that would be guilty of the very, very same thing that they tried to convict Trump of. Resurrect dead misdemeanors that went off the books, bring them back, and then raise them to a felony. Really? I mean, how much more political can you get on something like that? So anyway, it's a good decision that the court made because it saves the executive branch. If the court would have gone the other direction with the immunity decision, we would have lost the executive branch. We would have gone down to two branches of government, the legislature and the judicial. And we know that the judicial has been corrupted, and we know the legislature has been corrupted. But we have been able, with this decision, to maintain three branches of government out of the Constitution. We'll talk about the fourth branch, the unelected bureaucracy, in a moment. But that means that the president is able to make decisions that is afforded to the president through the Constitution without being drug in the court and prosecuted later on. This would be decisions made in defense of the country. Maybe there's an immediate threat to the country that the president has to act on, and he's got to act on it quickly to protect the country. And maybe not everybody would agree on the decision he makes. And so if the immunity decision would have gone the other direction, the president would make the decision, and then as soon as he gets out of office, or maybe even while he's in office, he's getting hit with lawsuits. He's getting hit with prosecutors around the nation coming after him, trying to bring him down, simply because of politics, because they don't like the decision he made politically in defense of the nation. That's what would have been happening if the court would have gone the other direction, and that would have destroyed the executive branch. We can't do that. We need the three branches of government because we need those checks and balances in government. All right, now we go to the Chevron decision. Now, the Chevron decision was that decision was made a number of years ago. Chevron versus the federal government, because the federal agencies were putting on a lot of regulations and stuff, and Chevron was trying to challenge that, saying, look, you're making up all these regulations. That's not your job. You're not an elected branch of government, therefore you don't have the authority to do that. Only elected branches of government can do that. And at the time, the court decided against Chevron, and so gave the unelected fourth branch of government a lot of power over our lives. And there's an old saying, if you abuse it, you lose it. And they have abused that power, and they're losing that. Well, they just lost that power in the Chevron decision from yesterday. So basically, they reversed what the previous court did and said, look, unelected bureaucrats, unelected branches, unelected agencies of the executive branch of government, you can no longer take an oblivious law that Congress makes a law that's kind of wide open, it's open-ended, and just start making things up out of that law, making up all these rules, and then just enforcing them on the American people. You can't do that any longer. And then it's telling the lower courts, look, lower courts, you're no longer restricted by this, and you're no longer going to be use it as a scapegoat to get out of things, because you're going to have to now start deciding whether something that a bureaucratic agency does is lawful or not lawful. Because the previous decision said we're going to deem these agencies the experts in this area, and the courts will just have to defer to the experts, and so the courts have to go along with whatever the agencies decide. That is no longer the case as of this Chevron decision this week. Now the courts, when there's a lawsuit coming against those agencies for the violation of people's rights, the courts now have to take it up and consider that question. Did they violate the rights of these individuals? And these agencies are going. I'll tell you what's going to happen out of this decision. It's the beginning of the death of the fourth branch of government, the deep state, that's trying to bring people under tyrannical totalitarian rule. Okay, it's the beginning of the end of that. And so these agencies, as a result of this decision, I believe are going to be stuck spending a lot of their money defending themselves in court for the next 100 years. And that's a good thing. Because that means if they're spending money on court, that means that's money they cannot spend on bringing tyranny down upon you and me, and bringing tyranny down upon farms and ranches and corporations and businesses. And so that means we begin to open up our freedoms. And as these court cases are being won by individuals against these deep state operatives, basically telling them, back off, you're violating whatever it might be, my free speech rights, my property rights, my, Fourth Amendment rights, whatever it might be. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts, or 1,000 fleas, or slowly just chipping away at these agencies and making them less and less and less powerful. And that means more freedom for the American people. So these are very, very good decisions by the Supreme Court. I'm happy the Supreme Court made those decisions. It also helps out the church. Now, the church has internal problems it needs to deal with. The church needs to get back to the fundamentals of the faith and stop with all this weird wackiness that's going on. And we'll talk about that in other videos. But suffice it to say, these are good decisions by the Supreme Court, and I believe it's going to be very beneficial to our country and to the people of our country. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on the C-Files.